p.m. GMT every day of the week, where we discuss all things to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to potentially lose all of the money that you wish that you had won in the crypto market. I'm your host, B-Check. I'm joined by my legendary co-host, Legendary, and Sammy. And we're going to get into everything to do with the market in just a moment. But before we do that, just a reminder, friends, that we do not know anything for sure. We do not know how to make you money necessarily. We don't know how to lose you money either necessarily. But we will discuss everything from all the angles possible. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it is Tuesday. It is the 16th of April. How are you doing? How are you feeling?
And GM, doing quite well. Still a bit bummed that I'm not out in Dubai, but decided to stay home. On the other hand, I'm seeing the weather situation there and seeing the flooding, the rain, the storm going on. And that honestly makes the coping a bit easier. So I do wish the best weather upon all y'all, but I quite, feel a bit better because it's not sunny, it's not beautiful. So I have an easier time to cope from home.
I cut out, or you cut out? Are you cutting out or me?
I think it's you.
Oh God, this is back now. Are you back now, guys? We were completely fine, but as we started encountering some technical difficulties, now Legendary, you're reacting on the timeline. Are you? Oh, you're moving now. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it's you cutting out.
Okay, so we're going to do this a little bit like this. We're going to do our best to do the video. As Legendary said, there's a rabid storm going on outside of my room. I don't know whether that's affecting the internet in the hotel as well. If it does not pull through, Legendary, is the plan to just run the space. So I'll keep this all open and we just run the space via audio, right?
Yep, just do a regular, good old Twitter space, X space, like back in the day.
Okay, so if we continue to fail, it looks like we might be okay now. But if that does happen, we'll just run the show on audio only, have to sacrifice YouTube for a little bit. But as you said, Legendary, Dubai is not going as planned. Like literally everyone started, I kind of arrived one day early. Everyone has started to arrive either today or yesterday. There are cars like driving through water, like halfway up. People like trying to wade through the streets. People's hotel lobbies getting flooded. My hotel lobby is okay at the moment, but I think it's actually getting worse right now from what I can see outside of my window. What's the sign, Sammy? You think this is a sign?
Yeah, it's pretty gloomy. Just to rub it in, it's now sunny in London, so you've literally left sunny London to go to rainy Dubai. How ironic.
Absolutely outrageous.
It also looks very dark where you are. Are you sure? Is it like middle of the night or something?
Well, this is the thing. Well, it's very, very dark outside because it's so stormy. But also, it's a thing with me in hotel rooms. I don't know if people who used to watch the show back when we did the show on YouTube when we traveled to Miami, but I had that whole issue with the lights where I had to keep complaining that none of the ceilings in their rooms had either lights or paint. So that was the other thing. So it seems to be, I mean, at least the ceiling has some paint. I can't complain there, but also no light. Like atmospheric, very cool, but no light. There will be no light in the hotel. I don't know if that's a common experience for me. Is that what you've noticed as well, Sammy?
It is indeed. I think Miami was the same. I remember you struggling with that. I think the art decor was specifically related to some sort of retro theme, hence the no paint. But this looks a little bit worse.
This hotel is way nicer. I have no other complaints apart from right now. Going to some darker news as well. We're going to get to the market at the moment, which we seem to be rejoicing, saying everything was okay yesterday. It doesn't seem to be. I'm going to get to all the headlines in just a second. As always, coming from the snapshot, which is pinned up top. If you do find it brings you some value today, please do give it a like. Let's get into it, starting with the price action. We have crypto down. Bitcoin is down 5% at 63.3K. ETH is down 5% at 3.1K. Solana is down 10% at $135. If you weren't buying the dip yesterday because you had no funds, not sure what you're up to today. First headline: crypto slumps. More tension between Iran and Israel. ETH and Bitcoin down 5%. Solana down 10. Number two, Solana tokens Parcel and Sharky TGE today. Pre-markets were at $0.8 for Parcel and 2.2 for Sharky. We're going to have a little bit of discussion about these pre-markets and to what extent you can trust them. Sharky's already out today, and it's definitely not at $2.2. So we're going to have a big discussion about that and see how these new tokens are getting received by the market in these conditions. And finally, Punk6529 introduces subscription minting, where you can mint by sending ETH in advance. I thought that was pretty cool. Maybe we'll get to that. I think we're going to have a bigger discussion across the market stuff. First, getting into some notable sales, we had Bored Apes kind of recovering a little bit with some top sales. Bored Ape Trippy selling for 38.25 ETH. That's a high sale for Bored Apes at the moment. Bored Ape Laser Eyes selling for 26.9. And some floor prices. We've got CryptoPunks still holding at 41. Bored Apes up 7% at 11.2. Mutants at 1.8. DGods at 1.3. Captains at 3.2. Azuki's down 8% at 3.7. Penguins at 10.3. Mad Lads down a couple of percent at 136. And the Nouns winning bid was at 7.1 ETH. Legendary, that is the price action. Those are the headlines. Anything catching your eye in particular before we get into the bigger discussion today on the market and everything else?
I think it's quite interesting to look at the apes and see which apes do fetch a premium, what goes for floor. Are people still willing to buy apes above floor? I had this post in the morning. I don't know if you've seen it, with Yieldosaurus, who back in 2021 was like, if you don't have a 6-figure PFP, don't add me. You need to do better and get a job and get out of your mom's basement. And the same Yieldosaurus today is now farming, social farming, Param, Bubble, and all the other airdrops, which I find quite hilarious. And actually, it's a perfect summary of what happened to the Bored Apes from the top to now.
Yeah, for the people who don't know, that was a pretty classic tweet. If you think about it, that's actually such a great tweet. That is a great tweet to tweet out. But hang on, you can't fault him, right? Because is he not doing what he's saying to do? Like, he's going out there, he's taking action. If he's struggling at the moment, down bad on his profile picture choices, he's out there farming. In some level, is he actually taking his own advice there?
Probably. I mean, I don't know what else he's doing because he has me blocked. I had to go to my alt account to get the juicy screenshot, so I haven't been stalking him too much.
So funny. Okay, that is pretty hilarious. Good point about the Bored Apes, though. I mean, there does seem to be a premium still for certain ones. We spoke yesterday how they seem to be, in perpetual decline at the moment, but a big bounce, as you noted, up 7 to 8% today, back over 11 ETH. Let's see whether that kind of maintains. Sammy, before we hit the other stuff as well, anything catching your eye?
I think I'm looking at the airdrop. So you've got Parcel and Sharkify today. You had the Sharks NFT and also the Homeowner Association NFTs, which are down sort of 40%. I think what's happened there is obviously the snapshots happened. People are then trading at a slight premium. So I think there's still benefits in the future to holding those HOAs, so the Homeowner Association NFTs. But they will receive an airdrop. I think it's 420 Parcel per homeowner NFT. And then there's, I think there's a premium for the diamond-handed ones. But it's just interesting to see that people are just completely dumping them, trying to trade them, speculating on the price. So obviously, I think we touched on pre-market prices, about 80 cents at the moment for Parcel. So I think that would net them like less than $300 for each of those homeowner associations. And I think a lot of these people probably paid close to the 1.52K mark for these. So even though they'll get points from it, from Parcel, from the actual leverage trading and stuff, I think they'll lose money on the NFTs themselves, or whether some will just hold them for the longer term, because I know there will be benefits to holding them for later seasons. So just monitoring that. And I think you're probably deeper on the Sharkify one, because I think you've invested in them. But I recall using those for the platform to get various benefits for that Sharks airdrop.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken, it's an interesting point to make. People who were holding Tensorians in order to try to max out their airdrop for Tensor seemed to get wrecked, maybe if you bought them very early. I'm not sure how the Parcel one kind of played out. We'll maybe touch on it a little bit more in a bit. In general, my take is like the whole point of, you know, participating in the airdrop is like you don't want to, you're already risking some capital in order to participate. You want to risk as little as possible in order to get as much as possible. Like leveraging it by getting one of the NFTs as well just seems like a really big risk when you're basically trying to get free money anyway. Why like cut into the free money by taking this risk? And especially as you see now, these dumps are pretty aggressive. And in particular, you have absolutely no idea how they're going to cut the airdrop. And I think that's one of the most important points. People just don't know. And then they all complain like, oh, this one is tiered. This one was linear. We didn't know this or that. And we're going to get into those complaints in just a little bit too. But it seems like kind of taking that risk is quite a big thing to do. Before we get into the bigger discussion, I just wanted to point out as well, I'm looking at the Mintify heat map at the moment. Mochaverse is up another 6%. Again, just pointing out that these NFTs are just acting like complete yo-yos at the moment with regards to announcements about tokens. So like Mochaverse announces just like another bit of a detail about their token coming, then it goes up 6%. Then 3 days later, it just goes down 6% or 7% again. Then they release some more details again a few days later. Then it goes up another 7%. Like it just, the attention span at the moment is so small that it's interesting to see. That's one thing that stood out to me. And obviously people can see for themselves some of the other big movers. Remilio's up again, 10%. Bored Apes, as we said, up 8%. So interesting stuff there. Right. Before we get into the main headlines, I wanted to touch on maybe this. In fact, let's look at prices first, and then let's go to the other stuff. Let's move to kind of crypto more broadly. As we said, Legendary, everything is down at the moment. Bitcoin down 6%, ETH down 6%, Solana down almost 13% now at 133. Kind of blood across the board as we can see it. What are your thoughts here? We discussed yesterday a little bit about the conflict between Iran and Israel. We tried to set it up in the most responsible way possible, noting that we're not geopolitical analysts by any stretch of the imagination. And like, how do you see this price action happening? How does it relate to the conflict? What's your position at the moment?
Yeah, it's one thing that stood out to me is if you look down the risk curve and the volatility of assets, you would expect PTC to be the one dumping the least, ETH dumping a bit more, Solana dumping a bit more, and that is all the case. But there's again one exception to that, which is BNB. BNB still at 540 and only down 7% over the last 7 days. Way more stable than the other like top currencies. And it's interesting because we spoke about BNB a couple of times on the show, and how we also wanted to tie that into yesterday's conversation, where we spoke about how attention kind of works, and that like obviously if you're based in the US, you will have more US exposure to what is being talked about, and hence I also don't see a lot of BNB talk on my timeline, because that is certainly a stronger currency to be talked about in Asia. And it's interesting to see that also in this scenario, it's holding up pretty strong, just as it pumped, but still doesn't really enter our bubble or our timeline at all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point.
I can assure you, just one more thought on that. If Solana would hold up better than ETH right now, Solana maxis would be all over the timeline cheering that ETH is dying, and Solana is way more stable than ETH is right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the first point. I take your point. I hadn't really considered like what's the most strong at the moment, but you're right. Like Bitcoin down almost 6, ETH down 6, Solana down more at 13, Doge down 6. Cardano down 5, 6. Like it just seems quite across the board kind of decline at the moment. Wanted to throw here to Kook Capital, who we have with us on stage. I don't know if you were reacting, Kook, to some of the stuff that was said on the Bitcoin news, just the more general market stuff. That's what we're talking about at the moment. Did you want to come in here? What are your thoughts on the general market decline at the moment? How are you seeing it?
Yeah, cool. Good question. I think you guys are good. I like what you're talking about. I think this will be a good space.
Thanks.
I'm a shit trader. Like I've proven to be really good at crypto, and I'm pretty good at like, you know, long-term, big, slow trades where I make a bunch of money, and I got to build the conviction up for that. Prices, like I got liquidated during World War III. And as I understand, fake scam World War III is still going on. But I don't really like, I think it was 3% of my total on-chain assets I put into like a leverage trade trying to take a shot at the war. Like,
okay.
Yeah, ultimately what I'm doing, I just stack Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, bro. Those are my base currencies. I couldn't give a fuck about the fiat price because I know they're all hitting all-time highs. I'm massively overweight to Bitcoin right now. Like liquid Bitcoin's probably 65% of my crypto net worth, because I think long term they're all going up, man. Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, you're pretty safe. Don't sell them. Probably trade less right now is what I'm doing. Like, you don't want to be making trades in this kind of volatility. Like, you try to catch a bottom. Like, that's good. If you want to do some leverage trading, just make sure you're not going to get liquidated, because it could be a lot worse before it's a lot better. But like any spot buys, I think you're fine, man. And you guys were touching on the farming stuff. I think I was saying this a month or two ago, bro. Like, once you started seeing the threads from the LARPers being like, oh, bookmark this post, and then they tag 30 projects on Sol. Like, bro, none of these guys have any funding. You're farming pennies, dog. Like, so don't be surprised about what's happening right now. These things were always going to be a zero. You'll notice, like, yeah, I talked about friend tech farming. I talked about blast farming, some other ones. Now I think the only thing you should be doing on Sol is just liquid stake your find the one to give you the biggest payout, I think the highest APR. But yeah, like there's sell signals or like, sorry, like don't. Yeah, these guys are trying to tell you to farm tents or buy this asset for 100, whatever it is. Like, come on, man. Drift, parcel, Sharky. Like, yeah, I was in the Sharky seed round. So, but I don't like the tokenomics, man. And I'm an honest guy. I think they fucked it up. I insta dumped my unlock today, and I'll keep doing that. So yeah, times are changing. Meme coin super cycle slowing down, but not dead. I think that'll come back really strong, but now's not the time to buy, because yeah, there's a fundamental truth, I believe, and it's called new coin good, old coin bad. Like, that's just a fact. You'll see something else come hot out of the gate when things come back and go to 1 million in a week or 100 million in a weekend, and then you'll see a lot more of it. Like, but
one question,
now,
Kook, you mentioned,
yeah, what's up?
You mentioned that you'd want to ideally maybe avoid leverage at the moment, or if not, use very small. From your perspective, someone who I think has done very well, as you said, like on the noticing the metas and the meme coins and stuff like that. Were you liquidated, or were you using leverage on the majors? As you said, like your game is to try to stack those major ones because you're super bullish on them, maybe medium to long term as well. Like, would you be using leverage on those, or just even going further? Were you further down the risk curve?
Well, I'm a bad, like, when I say I'm a bad trader, I mean, like, I'm a bad trader. Like, I'm bad at like trading charts. Like, you know, I'm good at on-chain, like alt trades, narrative trades, and this other kind of thing that'll take a longer time to play out. When I got liquidated, like I took 50 grand and put it into like a futures account on a SEX. And I've had some success doing this before, like at the right times, take a little bit of money, put it in there, try to make my position small enough I can't get liquidated. Guess what? When it's World War III, you're gonna get fucking liquidated. Just don't enter the size, don't enter with massive leverage so that you can sustain that. But that's not my game. Like, to be very clear, I'm not good at that. When the market's coming up, I like to think I was taking that. Basically, you know what, I made a lot of GameFi tokens like 2 months ago, because like I got some buddies, right? Like I live in Portugal. There's a lot of people talking about crypto, and they're all different levels of debt. I guess this is what I'm good at, bro. Narrative. So my drug dealer, he's pretty into crypto, but he's like not into crypto like us. And he's like, oh, bro, like Gala. He starts talking about Gala. And I'm like, why the fuck are these guys talking about Gala? So all the crypto like normies are talking about Gala, but they're a little deeper than your standard normie. So I'm like, all right, this motherfucker's talking about Gala. That means the normie's going to be buying it in a month. So I just went max leverage long every single GameFi token on the SEX, like 8 of them. And I printed money, bro.
Fair enough.
But
That's the alpha.
this isn't my type of shit. But my shit is like, notice what's going on, try to get involved early, don't overextend myself, and then hold it. The biggest thing you can do is not sell when you have a winner, right?
Yeah.
Like I put $1,400 into pups last year. I made $2.5 million. And I didn't sell that shit until the top. And I got a small moon bag, but runes, they're gonna sell runes after the halving, bro. The shit's going down, not up. And then you should buy the majors. I'll buy RSIC, hand over fist. The rest of them, probably unimportant.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really cool,
So
man. Really
kind of
interesting to
stuff.
have your perspective on that. Really appreciate it. Definitely, I'd heard that you've done exceptionally well on some of those meme stuff. So really interesting to hear your perspective
Bro,
on
Bowden
that.
30K, Diff fucking 80K, bro. I was printing. Like,
yeah.
We're
gonna get back to some of the meme
signs.
coin stuff in a little bit. We're just gonna get on now to some of the other big discussion points. Appreciate your thoughts, mate. Really interesting stuff. So one of the things before we get into the other headlines, I wanted to bring this up, Legendary. I don't know if you saw this. It was a really good article written by Arthur a few days ago. Actually, it was where, sorry, am I back? I think I cut out for a second.
Yeah, I think you're back.
Okay, cool. He was talking about how Bitcoin and gold is in lockstep. The weekend before April the 15th, tax payments were due. So one of the reasons he kind of predicted a dip. Now he had nothing, wasn't talking about the World War III, as Kook was mentioning, but he wasn't talking about the Are we back? Are we back? Can you hear me?
Are you back? Yeah, now I can hear you. God
damn. Okay, this is terrible. We'll have to try to sort this. I think we're back. We're good. So I was sharing Arthur Hayes' thing. He wasn't talking about the conflict in the Middle East as one of the reasons why he expected a dip in April. He was actually talking about tax payments. He said Bitcoin and gold. I'm sharing this again for the people watching on YouTube. We're always streaming live, both on X and on YouTube at the same time. Bitcoin and gold are in lockstep until the weekend before April the 15th. Tax payments are due in the US, but the Israel-Iran war tension rose the same weekend and Bitcoin dumped while gold was closed. Gold opens on Monday while Bitcoin dipped again. Bitcoin still works. Chad's just got to pay their taxes. Legendary, obviously there's a bigger story going on at the moment with the conflict and stuff like that. To what extent do you think there's any merit in the timing of the year as part of this process? And maybe you can take this in either direction now, because we haven't touched on the conflict in the last 24 hours, as well as this taxes point.
Yeah, I think the taxes point might be a valid one, but it's now massively overshadowed by the Middle Eastern conflict. I think taxes is a valid point when it gets to the point where people are trying to tax loss harvest NFTs, etc., etc. But it is a fair point to make. But to me, if you would put that into relation, that's maybe 5%, and the Middle Eastern conflict is 95%. Obviously, I'm throwing out random numbers, but just I would say Middle East is significantly more important and putting negative pressure on the market than just the taxes payments.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. Sammy, the market's down, obviously in line with the kind of the heightening of the conflict in the last 24 hours. What's your perspective here? Kook shared some perspectives on how he was trying to play it. What are your thoughts practically of how you are trying to play the market at the moment? Are you taking risk off? Are you buying the dip with whatever funds that are still available to buy the dip? Like, how are you thinking about it at the moment?
Yeah, I think having long-term conviction plays and just holding them, and I agree with Kook about not over trading. I think that's a smart thing, because I've been so many positions where I've been trying to time it and it's just not worked. So I think for me, it's just a case of, okay, well, I've got my high conviction plays. I still think that the likes of Blast and Ordinals are probably going to be decent plays longer term, or at least in the short to medium term. Sorry. So I'm just going to keep continuing doing that, trying to stack as many Blast Gold as possible, try and convert that to the Blast token, then eventually probably back into ETH when it comes to it. But I think just holding at the moment and just trying not to sell the bottom is probably my play. I think that, yeah, you're at a risk of over trading, so I just don't want to do that. I think it might go lower, but I think ultimately mid to long term it's probably going to be up eventually. You've got so much institutional backing now that there's got to be some sort of black swan event for it to be pulled out. I know that the war could, if that escalates, it could potentially do that, because I know they've come out and said, look, they're not going to print money for that, so the funds have got to come from somewhere. So I do think that the equities market and the wider crypto market would suffer if that does escalate. But for me at the moment, I think we've got bigger things to worry about if that is the case. I think I'm just going to keep in my lane, keep doing what I'm doing, and just hold those for long conviction plays.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think the general practical thought, which seems to be echoed by a few people here, is that, you know, to the extent that you were maybe in like a variety of assets, some of which you had high conviction on, some of which you had low on, it's like an opportunity to just be like, right, where am I supposed to be? Just get into the flight to safety, and in some respect, like the things that you like most. And it seems to be the case that most people are picking the majors for those things. So that is interesting to note. Kind of coupled with what you're talking about, like I guess the depressed market over the last few days has maybe dampened expectations for TGEs, but there's a whole bunch of things we need to talk about as part of the next headline. So the next headline is to do with Sharkify coming to the market, Parcel coming to the market, two fairly well-known prominent tokens on Solana. Parcel is obviously about trading real estate. Sharkify is, I think, probably the largest NFT loan protocol on Solana. But there's a few factors going on. One, the market's kind of depressed because of what we've been talking about. Two, Whale has kind of come up with a thread talking about Whale's market and how these tokens pre-trade at a particular price, and done a comparison on where they end up coming out. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit. And then the third thing is that there's just a lot of tokens coming in April. That was like my final point. Like, there's so many tokens coming in April and have come already, some of which have done well for investors, some of which are like doing okay. But can the market absorb this amount of tokens all at one time? Like today, we've got 2 in a day on Solana. And I just want to I want to give people the rundown for Sharkify just for a second, because I think that would be helpful. I'm trying to find the price if I can. So this, I mean, Kook mentioned this just before, but it's basically been down only from the drop. I'm just going to share the screen for a second so you can see. Then we're going to talk about Whale's thread before I throw it to Legendary and Sammy and anyone else who wants to come in on these thoughts. So Sharkify is like the biggest NFT lending protocol on Solana. And Kook mentioned he was an investor. I was actually an investor as well. Had big hopes for it. And
Can I say something quick, bro? I just want to mention.
Can I just set it up? Can I just set it up?
Liquidium does 10 times the volume of Sharky on a daily basis. Just want to say that.
Cool. Yeah, Liquidium is very good. Okay, so the token kind of came out at about $1.20. It's now down to 65. But the point we wanted to discuss, I think, is this thread by Whale, which was very interesting, got a lot of traction. He said, Whale's market is manipulating you. I've examined more than 12 airdrops and the results are shocking. Here we go. Let's go through it, and then we're going to throw to Legendary and Sammy. Whale's market is a website where you can trade coins and airdrop points before they hit the market, if you didn't know. So basically, it's like pre-market OTC deals. In theory, that's an example. On Whales Market, you can sell tokens OTC. In principle, you sell the right to your token for a certain price, regardless of how high the price actually is at TGE. After TGE, within 24 hours, sellers receive the agreed amount, buyers receive the tokens. In the past, many hype tokens were traded there before they hit the real market. And I'm sure you've seen posts like this on the timeline that created a lot of hype around them. And it's a reference to the Portal token, which was trading on Whales Market. I think that actually went as high as $5, on Whales Market, and has since, it came out the gate at like 2.6 maybe. It's now actually down towards $1. This is the interesting part from where he said, however, if you look at the pre-market transactions of past drops, you'll quickly realize the prices paid there are sometimes significantly higher than the real market price at TGE. And so I'm sharing the screen if people are watching in, so you can actually see this chart. But for the people listening in, I'll just pick a couple as examples. You've got Zeus, which launched relatively recently, had a pre-market price at about 85 cents, launched at 0.71. Wormhole trading at about 1.5. Market price is much lower than that now. EtherFi, when was trading around 5, it went down to 3 at TGE, but EtherFi is a different example, right? Because it went down to 3 and then went as high as 7 afterwards. So it's not always the case that Whales Market is inflating stuff. It might be like higher at compared with TGE, but some of these tokens do see significant runs after. So I wouldn't say it's a 100% the case that this stuff goes down, because sometimes price action after can change that. Jupiter trading at 0.68, market price TG was 60. There's a variety of examples there where in his analysis, tokens came out at a lower price than what they were trading on a Whales Market. I'm going to throw to Legendary here and just kind of ask maybe one of the first questions is, what do you think is going on here when it comes to these valuations and Whales Market? Like, do you think they're helpful? Do you think they're good at anchoring the price in people's minds? Often it's not with a huge amount of volume as well, right? So maybe we shouldn't actually be taking them as very indicative of what is going to happen. Maybe let's start there, take it into whatever direction you want, then got some bigger questions about like how many tokens we can do in April. Maybe we'll go to Sammy for that in a bit.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things going on. So first of all, I think we've seen that airdrop period being stretched out more and more. Like in the past, you used to be like, snapshot is done, airdrop coming, here's your airdrop, it's live, sell it, dump it, keep it, stake it, whatever you want to do with it. Now, if you look at the parcel model, you have 3 seasons, you have a final snapshot, then you have a final snapshot to have the loyalty rewarded. You have a perpetual points program. You have pre-market trading. You have airdrop checker coming out yesterday for the points into token conversion. You have TGE. So the attention game is stretching out that airdrop process already. And as part of that, the pre-market has gained more and more importance. And pre-market is obviously, there's a lot of interest from either party, both the company doing the token, as well as investors, as well as people who farm the airdrop to prop up that market and make big, nice numbers that it looks like, ooh, it's going to be a very, very high FTV. It's going to be a super big airdrop. So I think this is the one side of things that's going on. On the other side of things, there's a couple people, smart people making money on that, because obviously if you trade the pre-market, you can sell tokens that you don't have to people and expect that they dump post TGE, buy them, and fill your order. It's something we know from the stock markets. It's something you can do on stock markets as well. So there's definitely a couple people doing that on Whales Market and actually making very significant profits with that. And as you said, nobody's really looking at the volume stats, and also volume and price performance are not correlated in the Whales Market. I think we've seen it with a couple of tokens who had little volume, very high numbers, where it's just a couple of trades that push them there. And then it goes down significantly because, again, there's a strong interest by multiple parties to prop up those pre-market numbers.
So do you think that there's some propping up going on?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the volume has to come from somewhere, and someone has to list there at a certain price, someone has to buy there. And of course, I'm not saying that every pre-market price is being manipulated, but of course, a couple of them are certainly propped up and pushed into a higher direction than in absence of a platform like Whale Market.
Mm. Yeah, I think this is actually one of the key conclusions I'm coming to, and that's not necessarily accusing any one particular group of anything. I just think we generally have to be way more cynical about those numbers. That's my key conclusion. Not about any particular team. It's just like in general, if we're going to start looking at these numbers more and more moving forward, because Legendary, you made a really good point that these processes are just getting drawn out so much. So people will look more towards Wales market for like a read on the potential price action. And I just think we need to be way more skeptical of those numbers. So I agree with that a lot. Sammy, what are your thoughts here on just, I think two things. One, launching now into this market. I had a couple of tweets. I think like 3 weeks ago, I had a tweet where I was like, can like tokens on Solana are taking too long to launch their tokens. Amber warning. That was the amber warning like a few weeks ago. And then again, about a week ago, I think I said something like a reminder to the tokens on Solana, launch your damn tokens, just launch them. And I don't like, if we were going into a market now that's slightly more depressed and cautious, what do all these tokens do now? Do they just continue with their plans and launch as expected? Do you expect to see some reversals where people want to change their mind, delay? People would not like that either, given that they've protracted it out so long. How do you see projects navigating the next 1 to 3 months in that respect?
Well, I think even if you just go back to Wales' tweet, you can see that table. I just had a quick scan of it, and you can see that the earlier tokens on there, so the estimates of what it came out at pre-market is only sort of 10 to 20% difference to the actual price. But the more recent tokens that are launching now are kind of 80 to 90% different. So that would suggest that the more recent tokens are kind of entering a market that the market sentiment's probably down a little bit, and that's probably one of the factors that plays into this particular price estimation process. And I think that's probably an indicator. Yeah, because you look at Easy was what, a couple of days ago, and that's down 90% on what the estimate price was. But then if you look at Portal as an example, I think it came out higher than 240 at TGE, but that was $3 versus that. So you'd almost say it's roughly parity. And I don't know whether these pre-market prices that Wales taken a bid or ask, or a mixture of both, or the average of previous sales, but you could assume that might be one of the indicators. So you'd expect that tokens coming out in the current market probably aren't going to hit those valuations. And I think Sharkify this morning came out at about 40% of what the Wales market price was. I suspect Parcel's going to come out, and I've got a fairly big bag of Parcels, so I'm a little bit gutted about that, but I think it is what it is. I think there could be more upside, so maybe buying those tokens now or just holding them might be better long term if you think that there is going to be a bull market coming back.
But I think just to be transparent, like one of the things I was thinking, kind of to your point, and I appreciate Kook mentioned earlier, he was just like, well, I don't like the Tom Nick tokenomics just going to sell. And I agree. I think there are some challenges with the tokenomics, but it kind of got to a point, and it's already there, to be honest, with like the valuation, I think is so far off where of what I had in my mind. And this will be an interesting experiment for me as a kind of first cycle kind of angel investor, KOL round investor, where I want to see this will be the test. Like I sold half, and then I'm going to hold half because I think technically it is undervalued. Yes, some of the tokenomics are unhelpful, which means there will be a great deal of selling pressure. But let's see if I think there is value there, and that it's undervalued, can that value kind of that, you know, overtake the amount of selling pressure? Like, can it beat the selling pressure? And look, it's an amount of money I'm willing to kind of be able to run that experiment with, but it's my first cycle doing it. So let's see, because I think sometimes tokenomics can crush projects. So
and I think it's also important to state that, I mean, Whales market is just an indicator. It's by all means not the gospel. So I mean, I would use that tool, that platform at the moment, to set your own expectations, is just to look at it, look at the variance from like how accurate that forecast is, and then just apply that more recent discount to what the current like predicted market cap, and have that as your expectation. I think that's probably going to come out a more accurate way of doing it. And it's like when I was working with Vals at EY, like we would do that. We would apply discounts for marketing, liquidity, all that kind of stuff, just to have that more reasonable estimate of what we think that valuation is. And you look at observable inputs, unobservable inputs, whether it's benchmarking against other protocols that you think are similar, that are out there, that are in the market now, you can probably use that, in which case you don't need to have Whales market as that indicator. So there's a number of other ways that you can come together. I think Punk 9059 did that on the timeline with Blast. Like, he did a comparison against other L2s. And that's a fair estimation, but it's also worth mentioning about like the timing of the market. If you're coming into a bull market, they're probably going to be able to raise at a higher valuation than when some of the other ones that came out in the bear market. So it's just looking at the timing, looking at so many different factors. And ultimately, no one can predict with accuracy. And ultimately, someone's going to be willing to pay what they're going to be willing to pay. So yeah, you need that volume.
Yeah. Love the strength of the take here. Legendary, I want to throw to you on this one, because I think this will provide some interesting insight for the people listening in and watching in on YouTube. We have, sorry, I got to lean in because of my weird setup today to read it. That guy on YouTube says, it's really interesting to see that all the influencers took this long to realize they were being manipulated. Are we being manipulated? Are we even influencers? I don't know. I feel triggered here.
I have a hot take on that. Hot take on that.
Let me just read it out for the finish, and then we'll come to you on it. So that guy says, it's really interesting to see that all the influencers took this long to realize they were being manipulated. Everyone with no experience suddenly became VCs and thought it was normal. Legendary. What's your perspective on this? Because I do think some people are getting caught out. What is your thinking here?
Couple of thoughts. First of all, absolutely agree with what Sammy said. There's other metrics to look at. Even if you look at Whales market, Whale has looked at the high on Whales market. You can look at a trend. You can see, for example, if you look at Blast points, those are trending down, and that's probably a more accurate reflection of what's going on, etc. So even if you look at Whales market, you can also think about the data and have a better look at it. In terms of that guy's comment that the influencers are being manipulated, I don't think it's influencers who are being manipulated. If anyone is being manipulated in this game, it's your typical participant on the timeline. Because if you look at tokenomics, all of those projects, or not all of them, but most of them had KOL rounds that came at beautiful, beautiful discounts. Influencers who participated love to talk about that. And despite the propped up prices, those KOL rounds have remained highly, highly profitable. It's not a topic that many talk about those rounds. But if anything at all, it is the quote unquote retail Web3 participant who gets manipulated by seeing his favorite influencers or their favorite influencers talking about the project, seeing the propped up prices on Whales market, and only having the chance to get in at public because other people have gotten into that token price action before the retail guy.
I like the take. I think there's a lot of merit in that. I'm going to reflect on it a little bit longer. Oh, the thing I was just going to point out as well, and then I see Kook with his hand raised. I want to throw to him in just a second as well. The thing I wanted to point out is just, yes, that whilst a lot of people talk about stuff, don't necessarily disclose things, I'm happy that we are like being more transparent than I think various other people might be. Like, we're always talking about the things that we're in, letting people know our perspectives, kind of trying to peel back the curtain sometimes, talking about vesting schedules and unlocks. And because we think it's so important for everyone to be able to understand and get your head into the tokenomics and into that detail, because that's where you find out where the incentives are really kind of pointing towards. So appreciate that take from that guy, which I think is a good take, interesting discussion point, and Legendary's response to that. Kook, I know you'll have some thoughts on this as someone who's participated in many of these types of rounds too. What's your thought on this idea that these tokens are, well, the teams are either manipulating influencers or retail, or like, what's your thought on that general dynamic between VCs, influencers, and retail?
Yeah, I think that they're definitely manipulating influencers for sure. Not directly, I'll tell you why. And then the ultimate goal is obviously to influence and manipulate retail investors. Like most KOLs, everybody's a fucking retail investor. I hate this retail. If you're not institutional, you're retail, okay? If you're listening to this, you're fucking retail. Stop. But yeah, okay, think about it like this, bro. So the most important metric in any financial market is volume, bro. And so you go on Whale's Market. I'm always seeing these tweets. I thought Whale's thread was bang on. I loved it. Great job. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I'm too lazy to write a fucking thread, bro. I'm not gonna write a thread. But if you think about like cost for customer acquisition, like, okay, you're a VC, you're in this deal, you got to dump this token, you got Sharky at 20 million, for example. Public got it at 35. That's way too high for this business already. 20 million is probably too high. So what's the best way? Like you can do advertising, marketing, KOL, fucking marketing, whatever you want to do. But the best value you're going to get for your dollar leading into a token launch is to take 100 grand, because volume is so thin on Whale's Market, pump your token. This is where the manipulation of influencers comes in, because it's not direct. They're just always looking for stuff to talk about. So they see Whale's Market, they see one guy tweet that Sharky's trading at 100 million FDV. It opened at 250 million implied FDV on Whale's Market. You gonna tell me that shit's organic, bro? Get out of here. So they pump the token up a bit on Whale's Market. Your mid-curve influencers right in the airdrop threads jump on it because they need a few likes. And then it goes around Twitter and it's like, oh, fuck, look at this thing, 250 for a Sharky token on Whale's Market. That happens with every single drop. And then they all come out and they go 95%. No one lost money painting the Whale's Market fake non-existent chart. So, and I don't even hate it, bro. This is fucking smart. It's a game. But like, this is why I say don't listen to most of these motherfuckers, bro. Listen to me. I'm the only guy. I'm in the fucking round, bro. Like I'm literally.
I thought you were going to say don't listen to them. Don't listen to anyone. Do your own research.
Do your own research, but find guys that are consistently kind of giving you the facts. All right. If you're paying attention, you can see who's giving you the facts. There's way too much scammy shit out there. So it's not always me. I mean, I think it's me, but I'm going to be wrong. When I'm wrong, I'm going to fucking own it. I'm not wrong about this.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot of fair points there. And I think, I mean, one thing we've just got to say is that in running the show, we have to say, like, look, we don't know, like, unless we've actually checked the chain, be able to identify the stuff, we're not able to say like who with certainty that particular people are pumping the price or not. But as I was kind of discussing earlier as well, I think it's really, really important to like your overall perspective. I think I agree with, which is got to be cynical, got to be more cynical in general. Who knows who the particular participant is? Because as we mentioned, there's so many people with a vested interest. So we don't know who it might be. And we don't know if it's exclusive to one particular project, but definitely being broadly cynical is like a healthy starting point. And then you can just be pleasantly surprised if it does way better. So I think that's helpful. Come back to you for one quick point, Kook, because we need to move on to the final roundup and the final take, but just a quick one for me to round it off.
Because I agree with what you said, and I just want to make it clear that that's my position too. Like, just be cynical. That's why I say look at the volume, because if there's 60K in volume and this thing's at whatever price, it's not a real price. And I'm not suggesting that the KOLs talking about these prices on Whale's Market are bad actors or any of it's malicious. Most of these people have a stake in the airdrop or they bought into a round. They're very excited to see the price go up, and they also need stuff to talk about. And positive stuff like a price pumping is going to get you the most likes, and that's what all these guys are after. So, and it's not necessarily the VCs pumping the token. I mean, it is for sure, 100%. It fucking is every single time. But theoretically, it could just be a big whale who's waiting on a big drop, right? And he wants to juice his own book.
Yeah, many people invested in seeing these things work, and maybe that's part of the reason why people want to spread out and have more people invested in it, So there's more people pushing in the same direction. Look, I think that's really interesting
Cheapest
discussion.
marketing.
I'm glad we had it.
Imagine getting
because-
your top marketers to pay you and you don't pay them, bro. Come on. You're going to do it every time.
Yeah, I've made this point before. It's pretty smart, to be honest. But look, we're coming towards the close of the show. We've got maybe a couple of things left to discuss. I'm glad we had that conversation, because with more and more TGs coming up, and particularly going into like maybe a tougher environment for a small period of time at least, interesting to have that conversation. But just want to get you up to speed. We want to break to hit the Web3 roundup from the snapshot, as always, which is pinned up top, to get you up to speed with everything else that has been happening in the market in the past 24 hours, things you might want to be aware of, both in Web3 and in NFTs and in crypto. Number one, Vitalik sends 100 ETH to, what's the name of this?
Railgun. Coop
Railgun.
called it last week. Railgun. Oh man, Coop talking about it from 30 mil.
That's the
Vitalik
one.
sending 100 ETH through it. Coop early every single time.
Railgun on Ethereum. Number two, Bitcoin Puppets.
They're
artist
paying me
tweets,
too, by the
cat
way.
drawing,
They
and
paid me.
Bitcoin Puppets.
I'm on the Railgun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Coop.
just had to say it.
Okay. Bitcoin Puppets. We're running out of time. I've got to get through this. Bitcoin Puppets artist tweets cat drawing and ask audience if they should do more with it. Seems like a bunch of collectors were very adamant that they did not want the artist to airdrop some kind of puppet style cats. Next, CryptoPunk's book free to claim is available. So order for $100 for EtherFi as token from the largest restaking provider. EtherFi is going cross-chain with Wormhole. That's pretty cool to see some of these restaking protocols move on to L2s. It means you'll be able to reduce the fees when kind of posting ETH up, as well as unstaking. Next, OKX launches its own Ethereum L2. These L2s just keep growing in number all the time. Native launch plan for Bitcoin L2, Merlin, draws $400 million from 31,000 participants. Bitcoin L2s now also going crazy. And finally, Franklin Templeton produced a note on Runes, Bitcoin's new fungible token standard. Lots and lots of news coming out of Franklin Templeton. Keep producing these notes of research, which are like deeply in the kind of Bitcoin ecosystem at the moment. Well played by them. Great to see. Legendary, that is the Web3 roundup from the rest of the space. We've only got a minute left today. So I don't think we'll hit the final headline, which I think is very interesting, but I always kind of knew we weren't going to get there today. I think maybe a final reflection that would be helpful just on the market for you, how you're thinking about it. Are you taking some risk off? Are you staying risk on all these TGEs coming in April? Are there too many? Take that in whatever direction you want as we show.
Yeah, I think for the upcoming TGs, also from the perspective of someone who's invested in quite a few, it's important for the projects to keep some flexibility and to not have, or to not be like nailed down on a specific date when your TG is going to happen, because sometimes you need to be able to adapt a bit to those changing market conditions. I do think it's going to be more challenging than before. I similar to Cook, did a lot in GameFi as well, but now that market sentiment, at least for the short term, has shifted. And we've seen price action like Mojo, who did very well at TG and is, I think, down 80% or something like that from that, although it had a bit of a recovery pump yesterday. I think it's going to be tough for some of the projects that have TGs over the next couple of weeks, especially if you have those ongoing conditions and the continuously strong competition in gaming.
Yeah, maybe it's the same point that we made at the top of the show when it comes to your coins, your broader portfolio. It's like a flight to safety, a flight to strength, reconsolidate into the things that do best, the things that are quality and that are doing really well anyway. So long as they keep the tokenomics healthy, can probably still do well. But in general, as you say, a bit of a challenging period of time. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out. One thing that will be certain is that we will be here to discuss all of it. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. GMT, every day of the week, discussing everything to do with crypto, NFTs, and doing our very, very best to try to make some or a lot of money on the internet. That was your show for today. I'm your host, B-Check. Thank you to my co-hosts, Legendary and Sammy, as always. And our main contributor today, Kook. That was pretty awesome appearance. Thanks so much for joining us, my man. And thank you to everyone in the audience. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back with you again tomorrow to do it all again. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.